he kakonoa hau I luia mai, I rangi ātia a tihei Maurigora. He mihi ki ngā iwi hapu whānau o Te Ati Awa, Ngāti Tō Rangatira, Ngāti Raukawa hoki. He mihi e te rangatira I te manata o Hauora, the Honourable Andrew Little. I've just got a short note here that sharing your brother and whānau experience. That's what He Arooranga is about. Lived experience in whānau front and centre. And how courageous of you for doing, and it says a lot about yourself as well. He mihi ki ngā I te rangatira Hayden, me ngā komi hana o te Mental Health Wellbeing Commission. Tēnā kouti e te raurangatira ki ngā iwi, ki ngā whānau, ki ngā hapu, ki ngā hāpori. No reira, he mihi ki te cross-parliamentary rōpū. No reira, tēnā koutou, tēnā tātou katoa. Ko waiau, e hara tēnei te maunga neke te maunga tūtonu, a maunga hukurangi a tihei Māori. Ko hini rupi te whare wairua, whare whakairo, ko te aopari te hāpū, no kawakawa mai tāwhiti iau. Ko Ngāti Prau te iwi, ko Dean Rangihuna Toku Ingoa, e mahi ana au ki te kāhāpai mō te pōari hauora o Waitaha. No reira, whānau mā, tēnā koutou, tēnā tātou katoa. Te omorangi ki mua te hāpai o ki muri. Today marks a significant day as we celebrate the achievement of one of the key recommendations of He Arooranga, the re-establishment of the Mental Health Wellbeing Commission for all people, all cultures within Aotearoa, New Zealand. I've been asked to share with you today the journey that has brought us to this point. I have had the privilege to serve as one of the panel members for the Government Inquiry into Mental Health and Addictions, which was announced in February 2018. And I don't mind saying that I'm a gumboot boy. I come from grassroots. Then all of a sudden I was elevated up to the shallots of the government. I actually said, it's not me, you should be looking for somebody else. However, I was honoured and privileged to work alongside some esteemed leaders, which I'll allude to. Back then, the catalyst for the inquiry was widespread concern about the mental health and addiction services, both within the sector and the wider community. I want to acknowledge Mātua Ken Mason, who wrote the first report, who said this: listen to the people. They will tell you what to do. The people's voices contributed extensively to the mental health and addiction inquiry. The Honourable David Clark set the foundation for the mental health and addiction inquiry. He provided his cloak of care and support for us as panellists as we travelled the country. Having to front foot those public meetings wasn't easy for any of us. He ahai, why? Well, for me, and I don't know about the rest of the panel members, those voices still sit with me. And we wouldn't have got by if it wasn't for the support of the Honourable David Clark and the way that he supported the inquiry panel right through its journey. The panel was led by Professor Ron Patterson and supported by Dr. Barbara Disley and Dr. Jemima Tiatia Seith, who are here today. Sir Mason Jury, I mean, wow. I'll talk about him later. Josiah Tuolami and me, our chair Ron Patterson, enabled leadership that was able to facilitate and set the direction in building an inspiring vision and motivated a diverse group of people to act towards achieving a common goal, guiding and influence the completion of He Arooranga. The purpose of the inquiry was to hear the voices of the community in New Zealand's current approach to mental health and addictions and what needs to change. And there needed to be some change. Report on how New Zealand was preventing mental health and addiction problems and responding to the needs of people with those problems. He aha te mea nui, he tangata, he tangata, he tangata. Recommend specific changes to improve New Zealand's approach to mental health. The inquiry process involved widespread public consultation. Over 2,000 people attended public meetings and over 5,200 submissions were made to the inquiry. People shared deeply their personal experiences, telling their stories of pain, mamai, of trauma, of not being able to access services when they front-footed to try and get into those services. That was largely the voices across the country because they didn't meet the threshold of entering into mental health services. And to me, that affected them because they didn't have no faith or belief in the mental health and addiction services when trying to access it. Telling their stories was powerful. Having to absorb and consume those voices of pain, of trauma and horror was powerful and compelling to hopefully bring about change. And for me, when we look at tūmanako, when we look at hope, without hope there's no recovery for us. In the inquiry, that New Zealand's mental health and addiction problems could not be fixed by the government alone. It can't. There's no way. We've been at it for years. Nor solely by the health system. We can't mediate or treat our way out of an epidemic of mental distress and addiction affecting all layers of our society. We need to ensure practical help and support in the community are available when people need it, as described in He Ara Oranga. And the government has a key role to play here. But some solutions lie in our hands and we can do more to help each other. So I mihi to you, the minata, because I've seen you in different places and spaces supporting He Ara Oranga, supporting the milestones from He Ara Oranga in terms of the recommendations. We cannot do more to help each other. The panel's report, He Ara Oranga, was released in November 2018. It set out a vision for a new system with mental health and well-being for all at its heart, where a good level of mental health well-being is attainable for everyone, outcomes and equitable across the whole of society, and the people who experience mental illness and distress have some resilience, tools, and support that need to regain their well-being. He Ara Oranga presented recommendations covering 12 broad areas: expand access and choice, transform primary healthcare, strengthen the NGO sector, take a whole-of-government approach to well-being, facilitate mental health promotion and prevention, place people at the centre, take strong action on alcohol and other drugs. And what I want to say about the He Rangaranui, the alcohol, what snapped me in half was when I went up to Kaitaia, there was more alcohol shops than services. What's that about? We have a duty of care for our next generations, for those people that we serve. Those alcohol outlets cause havoc and chaos and misery in our communities. So when I talk about the He Rangaranui, I talk about the big taniwha. The comprehensive set of 40 recommendations were intended to transform our approach to mental health and addictions to prevent problems from developing any further, respond earlier and more effectively, and promote mental health and well-being. The inquiry acknowledged that change would take time, and it is going to take time. It's a beast. There's some large portions of work within He Ara Oranga's recommendations. Why do I say that? Because there's been a long history of that mamai been sitting there. It can't just happen just like that. That's not being real. The inquiry acknowledged that change would take time, that it would be sustained over a long period, but that we needed to start straight away. The panel strongly believed that the people have waited long enough. And for me, enough's enough. The people have spoken. They have shared their stories. They have given. Some of them have found it hard to even come to the forefront. And for me, the inquiry presented this place, coming out of a place of suppression to a place of expression. And to me, that was part of the healing process for the whānau that actually fronted up to the public meetings. We had to absorb and endure that, and rightfully so. Rightfully so, because these people were damaged, and in particular whānau that actually had lost loved ones. Whānau members that actually have been bereaved by suicide. That was hardcore. You know, and we had to front foot that and kind of not show any emotion because of being a public servant, because of who we are when working with the people's voices. Government considered recommendations, and consideration of 38 of the recommendations. One of these was the establishment of the Mental Health Wellbeing Commission. Yeehaw. And I'm so happy that's come back in to give protection for the services, to monitor what's happening within the mental health and addiction space. While work got underway to put the place for legislation for the new commission, and the interim government established the Ministerial Advisory Committee. The initial Mental Health and Wellbeing Commission in 2019 undertook, but not all, of the functions of the Commission. The role of the initial Commission was to monitor and provide advice on the government system transformation response to He Ara Oranga, develop an outcomes framework for mental health and wellbeing, and make recommendations to address data gaps, support and promote collaboration and partnerships across the system so that we are all working together. Ko tahitanga. The principle of ko tahitanga is working together as one. Gone are the days of working in silos. So I put a plea out to the ministries because too long we've worked in a segregated manner, in a silo fashion. Those days are gone now. And why do I say that? It's because I don't want our people graduating from Oranga Tamariki, Ministry of Social Development, Justice and Corrections, just to name a few. I've got a PhD in all those. But we need to build strong foundations so that when we set up the Permanent Mental Health and Wellbeing Commission, it could hit the ground running. The initial commissions delivered an interim report to the government in June 2020, and its final progress report, Mate Ronga Ake, through listening and hearing, was delivered to the government in December 2020, which really aligns to what we were doing on the mental health and addiction inquiry when we travelled across the country. It was momentous, it was enormous. The initial commission operated until the commission opened in the stores on 9th of February 2021, which brings us to today, celebrating the launch of the Mental Health and Wellbeing Commission. A lot of people have contributed to this journey since it began in 2018. So I'd just like to take a moment to acknowledge some of them, and I applaud you. And for the services and the people here, help us to help our people. Doesn't matter what culture or what race they come from. And first and foremost to the people in the community and those working in mental health and addiction systems across Aotearoa who responded to the inquiry, shared their stories and their expectations and hopes for system transformation, and have continued to share their views with the initial commission. Thank you for your courage and determination to raise your voices for the call of change. I want to take a moment to acknowledge the Mental Health and Addiction Inquiry Secretariat team. That's why I said that whakatauaki at the front. because there's a machine behind the He Ara Oranga, there's a machine behind the panel, and without them, we couldn't have possibly done the mahi that we did. Those who work behind the scenes need to be acknowledged for their immense and crucial support and help during the inquiry. Their efforts enabled us as inquiry panel members to do the work asked of us. It is important to note that both jobs are equally important and are like yin and yang. Without one, everything will fall. I would also like to acknowledge Robin Shearer for laying the foundation and supporting He Ara Oranga while she was in that role as the Deputy Director General for Mental Health and Addictions, and for supporting the voices of the lived experience to be at the table. What do I mean by that? We have both roles within the Ministry of Health, having Martin Burke as a Director of the Lived Experience role in there. That's been elevated up into the ministry alongside our leaders. And the Mental Health and Wellbeing Commission, I honour you for also embracing the two voices of Tammy and Alex to be part of the team. On that note, it's not easy to be a public servant. On reflecting on my experience with the inquiry, it was at times challenging. So I would like to mention the importance of Tony Guslash's recent appointment to the interim role as Deputy Director of Mental Health and Addictions at the Ministry of Health. I've worked alongside Tony for 25 years. I make no bones about that. She's a mother. She cares. She is a hubby. And in her previous roles, funding and planning and general manager for District Health, Specialist Mental Health Service, I was able to work alongside her. I mean, who gets a chance to talk to a general manager? Well, I didn't for a while. You know? But doesn't that say something? Why is it that Māori can't go and knock on the door and have those meetings with our rangatira? Those days are gone. So I would like to mention the importance of Tony Goodlake's recent appointment to the interim role as Deputy Director. I have every faith and belief in Tony, as many other leaders in the mental health and addiction sector, and successfully developing a long-term plan for the sector that has the people whānau at the centre. She is a leader and a person of great mana and leadership qualities that wants to work alongside people of Aotearoa New Zealand. So please, to those voices, this is a plea, please contribute further to He Ara Oranga and Mā Te Rongo Ake. Please keep engaging and working alongside, advising and recommending to the Ministry of Health. I've never done that in my life. I never thought that I'd be ever working alongside the Ministry of Health. But now that I'm there, I don't underestimate the work that lies ahead for the long-term plan. Ko tawhiti ke tō haringa mai, kia kore te haere tonu, he nui rawa o mahi, kia kore e mahi tonu. You have come too far not to go further. You have done too much not to do more. The Mental Health and Wellbeing Commission has a vital, integral role in making sure change happens. There are still critical challenges that remain and transform Aotearoa New Zealand's approach to mental health wellbeing. I extend a respectful plea to the Honourable Andrew Little. Please provide your korowai, cloak of care and support for the Mental Health and Wellbeing board members for the Mental Health Commission. Thank you for your leadership and your influence you have shown already as you've travelled throughout Aotearoa New Zealand. We know we carry the hope of many people through Aotearoa with the establishment of the Mental Health and Wellbeing Commission that will provide system leadership and oversight of the mental health and wellbeing in New Zealand and act as an institutional mechanism to hold decision makers and successive governments to the account. That was my worry, Minata, that if there was a change of government, what happens? Is there some protection there? And so I offer Hayden Wānoa and the Commission board members and the staff of the Commission my support and best wishes as they continue this journey to champion and bring about transformations that all people in Aotearoa can live well and have access to support that they need to maintain their well-being. Nō reira koutou mā, i ka rauranga tērā tēnā koutou, tēnā tātou katoa.